IVM.
Good morning. Hi. Welcome to whichever episode this is. You guys can't understand any time that this is like, sometimes it's challenging. It's a scheduling conflict. It's like, what do we do now? We have nothing left to talk about. We're struggling. We sometimes lose motivation and inspiration, which is normal and natural. But I swear we get one email, even if it's a 2-liner from you guys, or sometimes we get the long ones where you've written your whole life story.
An essay, yes.
I personally love those. But whichever one it is, anytime you guys tell us that you're listening and that it made some sort of impact in your life, it's enough. And we're back here like junkies, addicted to do another one. So yeah, welcome to the new episode of Agla Station Adulthood. Tash, do you want to do a quick check-in on where you and I are with adulting right now?
Yeah, it's been a while since we haven't quickly. I'm good. I've understanding patterns. Therapy yesterday has also revealed to me what are things I need to look out for. So obviously,
what did we learn in therapy today? We,
okay,
as in you and
we, as in because I learned.
Because my second-hand therapy is a session now.
So it's, I think I've still not been able to understand it properly, but something about triangulation. So I look for 3 things. And for me, those 3 things are a daily entrenchment in the thing, a sense of acceptance that the other person wants me, is offering me things. And one more thing. See, I've forgotten also. I'm so bad at therapy.
So a triangle has 3 sides.
Exactly. So there are 3 points. So there are 3 things which triangulate me within all the scenarios of my life. So be it in my home life with my parents, this triangulation is fixed. So I'm feeling very secure here.
That is strangulation. That is not triangulation. And on that note, I'm leaving the episode. This is the height of my joke today.
आज तुम jokes नहीं करोगी इसके बाद. You have peaked.
I peaked. This is the highest that you can. There's
इसके बाद
nothing more
कुछ
I
नहीं.
can do. No.
Yeah. And that's all. So I'm learning a little bit about my patterns and how I'm looking for that same kind of thing in all relationships or in all situations, whether it's work or romance, and just to be a little aware of what our patterns are and how we are trying to replicate scenarios and situations and behaviors.
I saw this thing yesterday on Instagram. So because I can't even pretend that I saw it on like something smarter. I saw it on Instagram. It was this, like, I think a Forbes thing being like female founders or something. And I don't know who she was because it was on Reels. So I was just watching the video mindlessly. And she was saying, she was like, when you're exhausted, you can still get up and go to the gym. When you're feeling rejected, you can still show up at work and work that much harder. But so she was saying all these things where, like, if you're feeling one way, you can still.
One second.
I know, but hear me out. Because that's what I said. I thought the same way. I was like, I can't even send this to anyone because everyone's going to be like, Ayushi, this is a you mentality, not anyone else of like suppressing feelings. But she ended it with, it's not about, you can't. I liked the end, which is what I would like to say and share with everyone is, you can never control feelings. You can't control how you feel about something. You just feel it. There is no way to stop that from happening. What you can control is your thought and your behavior. And I like that. I was like, okay, so the point is, if you feel bad, if you feel lonely, if you feel rejected, if you feel upset, if you feel, envy, if you feel pride, if you feel all of these things, it's
fine. Stop saying all the negative emotions, I'll start feeling them.
Okay. I'll strangulate you now. Look, this is not about you. Saying the feelings happen. Yes. It's the only thing, the adult thing to do is to control your behavior and your thoughts.
Which is when our new favorite thing comes in, respond, not react.
Yes, there's a feeling of this season.
Wow. And you say, how have you been at? Where have you been at adulthood-wise in the last couple of weeks?
Shaky, definitely shaky. There's been a lot of up and down in both professional and personal life.
Just President of Wobbleville. Sorry, I had to make a name
I'm the mayor of Wobbleville. It was very wobbly over the last couple of weeks, but I feel like I've reached safe ground now, like steady ground. Because again, I swear, it just takes like 2-3 days for me to keep saying the same thing to myself, which is, you can't control what's happening inside. You can only control how you portray it outside. So how you react, like instead of reacting, just choose to respond. But anyway, we're going into happy time. It's December, it's peak wedding season, it's peak party season, end of the year.
And also we cannot ignore that it could be peak Corona season yet again. So while we are going to be partying and enjoying, I also want everyone to be very mindful about how we behave.
I forgot we have a social responsibility.
हाँ जी बहन जी, ऐसा ही नहीं हर भी party में जाके ऐसा rage कर सकते हैं. We have to be very mindful now. But I am not qualified to talk any further because we have an official adult on this episode with us.
Exactly. I was going to say we can just defer this topic to someone else. We're like, no, we have children. You deal with it.
A real responsible adult. Everyone give it up for Nikhil Taneja. Welcome, Nikhil.
Welcome to the show, Nikhil.
Hi, cool young people. Thank you for having me.
Now I have peaked, feeling cool and young. Nikhil, how are you this fine morning?
Not bad. It's a bit of a gloomy day in Bombay, which is weird.
It has rained.
It has rained. Okay, I didn't know that, but yeah, it's always anything is better than like more summer. So I'm happy about that. So
very true.
So for our listeners who don't know about Nikhil, he is the founder and CEO of Yuvaa, and I love their work. And Nikhil, you want to tell our listeners a little more about it, even though I feel our listeners are your TG and they know exactly who you are and what is going on.
100%.
I do hope so. If not, that's completely all right. This is always a good time to plug in Yuvaa. The social IDs are at VRUA, WEARE, Please follow right away. So Yuvaa is meant to be a socially conscious youth media platform. We care about making young people feel less alone. And to that effect, we try to create content that makes them feel more represented, more seen, more heard, perhaps. And we try to do this through triangulation of empathy, mental health, and entertainment. So we try to kind of find an interesting way of saying important things.
I did a video with Yuvaa also once. So you all should watch it. We will link it also.
It's on our YouTube. It got quite a bunch of views. So yeah.
Yes. Amazing. So empathy, you said, entertainment and
mental health.
Mental health.
How did you forget your favorite thing in the world?
I got caught up on the entertainment part of it.
Tash lives between mental health and entertainment. And basically, I think most great entertainers actually live between this, because this constant balance between them is what's making them good performers, just managing the need to stabilize both. But anyway, thank you so much, Nikhil, for joining us early in the morning. And as you know, I think we've said it a couple of times now, but even before, we have this idea of being baby adults, where even though age-wise, society demands that we are now adults, because I'm going to be 30 in 3 months. 3 months. Dash is going to be 29.
I think maybe now we can stop saying baby adults, because when we started the show, we were still baby adults.
Yeah, which was 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. That was 2 years ago. I think we recorded when I was still 27. So
cute.
That was still a long time ago. And so we still say it because it makes us feel comfortable. And that's kind of the theme of the way we go with the show. But I think the reason we still say it is because sometimes we just don't feel confident or sure enough to say, I am a functional adult. I am a total adult. Like today I have rocked up to work the adult way. This is the adult decision. Sometimes it's like outside you look and feel maybe bodily like a 30-year-old, but inside you still look at a problem and either spiral and you go, you doubt everything, you second guess. And that takes you down a very sometimes negative or a shaky path. And you're kind of confused, as to how to react, what is the actual adult decision. And you're someone who works with a lot of people who are young and whose mental age and physical age might not always match up. So how do you, because I'm talking about myself also.
Yeah, people in their 20s basically who are now navigating this adult world.
Yeah. And how do you feel working with us? Do you feel like there's an actual difference between the adults of maybe 5 years ahead of us or 5 years younger? You think it's all actually just a struggle Olympics. And it's just trying to get there.
So I feel like, I don't think like, one of the things that I realized after becoming older is that everyone's always clueless. You kind of think that, okay, you get old and you'll have more of a clue. But that's just complete and total lies, right? Like nobody ever has a clue. And you just get better at pretending you do, right? So you just get better at showing to the world that, you just put yourself together better. You just put yourself out there in a better manner. You just think a little bit more before, having people hear your unfiltered thoughts. You try not to put out those unfiltered thoughts, but it's not like you stop having them. It's not like you stop feeling or thinking like, and I don't even know what that would look like. I don't know what feeling and thinking like an adult is. Every morning, I get up and I think that I have total control of my day, and like 15 minutes later, it's all gone to shit. So I don't like this. Nothing.
Nikhil, तुम गलत चीजें बोल रहे हो. तुम्हें अच्छी चीजें बोल रही है. It's not supposed to be this way.
No, but
it is.
No, but it is. I love it when adults come on our show and tell us that you guys are fine. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, and it's okay. Why do you need to know what's going on? I think that's also the fun of life, right? Like it's fine, and I think maybe like the actual adulting thing is making peace with this idea, right? That you don't necessarily need to be always in control of things.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to know what's going on at all point, you just let it be. That just making peace with the fact that everything every day is going to be a complete chaos is maybe what being an adult really feels like. But to answer your question on, what it feels like working with young people, like, I mean, I'm going to be like really honest. I'm not just saying this on this podcast because this is specifically about young people, but I mean, I do not like adults, so let me just put it out there. I don't like people. I typically don't like people my age. I dislike very much people older than me.
You dislike people?
Yeah, pretty much.
Straight up.
Let's be honest right now. No, because I feel like, I feel like, okay, of course, millennials, I mean, I'm a millennial, right? But as millennials, they still have had a little bit of authenticity in the way we go about living our lives. I feel like millennials have always still been struggling between what is authentic and what is, a good way to be socially. But at the same time, any people who are older than us, Gen Xers, boomers, etc., I feel like there's just very little authenticity there, and it always feels like you're talking to people, who are, who have like these walls and fronts in front of them, and it's just really annoying, like I don't want to talk to who you think should be the impression of you in the world, right? I want to talk to who you are as a real human being, and I just find that really, really tiring now. On the other hand, I feel like with Gen Zs, and I work, we are a Gen Z driven company, Yuvaa. So the average age of my company, till very, very recently, the average age was about 24 and a half or 25. Now it's gone up. We've hired a few senior folks.
I would say that's unbearable, because I can't imagine actually speaking to a room of 24-year-olds constantly. And listen, listeners, you talk to me, okay? However small you are, you talk to me. I'm fine with you. But it's like, I feel now working with 24-year-olds might be difficult because, again, I think it's just...
But having worked recently with a 22 and 24, I want to say 24 is the great age. 22 is horrible.
Maybe we weren't good 24-year-olds. I was not a good 24-year-old. I was struggling at 24.
Anyway,
no.
Nikhil,
So I feel like I think Gen Zs seem to have like the opposite end of what I just described as the problem, which is maybe too much authenticity. Like I feel like I think that's also a thing. Like, calm down. Nobody needs to know every single aspect of your life out there. Maybe like hide a few things. Maybe like just keep a few things to yourselves. Maybe just some thoughts do not need to be put out into the world. So I think in that way, I feel like very fortunate as a millennial. I still have like a balance of both worlds, whereas I feel like
that's what we feel like as well a lot of times.
Absolutely. We are the only generation that's had the internet and have normal like childhood memories that predate the internet age. And
that I think has actually stabilized us a little bit, because interestingly, what you were talking about of speaking to a generation above us where there is no authenticity, I think in their defense, sometimes I feel like they weren't ever given that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Or they were not told that you can be this way. And moreover, I think it was, they didn't have they were so busy trying to achieve certain things that society had set out for them that they had no option. Survival.
Yeah.
And then you have, so we saw that growing up, right? So we saw that, no, you got to put your nose to the grindstone. You got to make sure that you have this. You know, your family has to look like this. Your job has to look like this. And so that your life can look like this. This is the steps to that. And then you had the generation below us who came with just the internet. They were born on the internet.
Yeah.
And they were told everything that you think, feel, want, desire, reject is valid. Yeah. Everything is valid. So we were caught in this middle thing of, and I think we do get caught in it because sometimes we're like, yeah, I should say whatever I want. Like, what's the big deal? This is how I feel. This is how I feel. It's 2021. I'll say how I feel. And then at the other end of you're like, yeah, but I sound like a moron. This is a stupid feeling to have. You should not feel this. Get over it. Get the over it, you know? And I think that balance is very interesting to navigate for us.
I'm with you, you know. So I mean, my empathy for the older generation completely extends to my parents, you know.
Yeah,
like
that's
I get it. I totally get it. You know, I mean, growing up, like, you know, I mean, I've also had to take a lot of therapy over the last few years to kind of get to this place. But but you know, I mean, I'm now at that place where I do understand my parents a lot better than I feel like they, as children, got to understand their parents, or their parents understood them.
Yes.
You know? And I think that's also a privilege to be able to reach that place where you understand that, you know, your parents were not really trying to screw you up. You know, it happened because they were just raised that way, etc. And I think that's a really nice thing. Except, you know, but for me, you know, I think my empathy for older folks just like stops at my parents, and after that, everyone. I'm just like, that's your problem. It's your children's problem. They deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. So I honestly, I prefer that to, you know, if I had to choose between the two, I'd much rather prefer Gen Zs and too much authenticity. Like I see them bubbling with these thoughts and ideas of wanting to change the world, and they're at it. They're not even like thinking about it, you know, they're just going out and doing things, you know, which I just think is so refreshing and amazing, you know, for every one of us who's had to think like 20 times before putting an idea and thought out in the world. They're just putting it all out there. They are exposing themselves. They're making themselves vulnerable. They're making sure that, you know, I mean, embarrassing themselves in public and dealing with it, you know, being like, it's fine, you know, here's the best and worst sides of me, and it's all good, you know, I'm here to take it. Of course, that's giving them like a shitstorm of mental health issues. That's a different conversation. But I admire it. I really admire that, you know.
I want to talk about your adulthood journey, Nikhil. Between the time you worked at corporate, bigger companies which were in the entertainment space, to starting Yuvaa on your own and doing what you really wanted to do.
Yeah.
That journey is never easy for anybody. But you are here, you've done it, and you have done it so successfully. Success there and success here. How you do, how you feel, how you manage.
How you success.
You know, so the funniest thing is that, you know, for a very large part of my adult life, I felt like I was successful, but the things that I was doing weren't successful. Like, you know, it just felt like really weird that, I mean, I started my career with Hindustan Times, went to MTV India, where I did not make roadies. For anyone listening, I have nothing to do with that.
What did you do at MTV? You did Bang Baja Barat.
No, that's Yash Raj. That's Yash Raj.
Yeah, no,
right?
different.
So
okay.
MTV, I did a bunch of original content which nobody has seen, but a lot of it was in the non-reality show space. It was a fun time. We were experimenting with a lot of stuff. So I made a bunch of films at MTV. I mean, and those films are right now are on Woot. Nobody knows them, but they were made with like some really cool people. So Shreya Dhanvantari, who's in Scam, made her debut with that film. Akash Khurana, who's directed multiple things now,
of course,
made his debut with all of that. So I got to work with some really cool folks over there. You know, but none of the things that I was working till I was at MTV was actually working, you know. Like they were all like, I was doing all of these interesting, exciting things I felt like, but I will always like, I didn't get, and somehow MTV would still say, "Nahi, acha kaam kar raha hai," wagera. It always felt like pity promotions, you know, like.
You don't believe it, right? Yeah, because I'm also in a similar space where everyone's like, "Oh, you're killing it," but I'm like, I don't feel it. I don't know. Something's not right.
You know, but there was, I mean, you look at any metric and it just didn't, I mean, there was no one watching those, no one talking about those. I just felt like, okay, I'm doing something interesting and no one cares. And then I went to Yash Raj and then everything changed. Everything we did I was heading content and development for Y Films, you know, and I got to make, so
that's
my claim
their youth
to
wing, by the way, Ayushi, in case you didn't knew.
I did not knew this, but I know Band Baja Barat.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Bang, not
Bang.
Band. You are confused, Ayushi.
Oh, I'm
Anyway,
thinking of the movie.
Bang is the
no,
web
that's
series
different.
with
With Ali
Ali Fazal,
Fazal?
Oh, yes.
Ranveera.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. I'm
Old,
okay. Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah. So my claim to fame actually is out of the first 10 web series made in India, I had produced 4 of those. I was at I think I just, where I felt like everything else before that I was doing, I was a bit too early. This is where I was at the right place at the right time. And Yash Raj, anything we did, like literally, Bang Bajawala today is on like 80 million views. Man's World is on like 90, 100 million views. Ladies Zoom I did, that's on some crazy number. And all of these shows at that time were suddenly becoming super successful. And the thing that's happened to me after that, which is the joke and the irony of my life, right? So all my life, I've been chasing this idea that I need to get successful. I'm doing all of these things and nothing really happens. And then I finally find this success. And I mean, I got to give you perspective of that success, even at Yash Raj, they double promoted me to GM at YRF at like when I was 30, 29, 30, which was, I was the
That's
youngest. Yeah, I
huge.
know. It's crazy. I was one of the youngest GMs ever there. I was, they gave me a full cabin and shit. And I was just like, wait, what is happening in my life? And around this time, I mean, it was just a mad time. And here's what happened to somebody who his entire life has. And I was, backstory, an engineer who obviously, like the cliche, I was, left it and then decided to do something else in my life.
Classic.
Yeah. So after all of that effort, I finally got all of these things, everything going well in my life. And then I had clinical anxiety because I had reached all my goals. And now I was like, okay, I wanted to do this and I've done this now. So now what? You're chasing for 10 years of your life, this milestone that you have in your head, this checklist saying that, okay, if I do all of this, that's when I know that I'm successful, or that's when I know I've made it. Looks like I have now. What does this mean next? And I had no answer. So I've done all of this. Now what? So
Can I ask, if you don't mind talking about it, the actual experience of that feeling you have, of the
yeah,
anxiety, how
yeah,
your
yeah.
days were at that point? And
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very happy to. Because, it was so weird, like externally, I was in the best place of my life, my career ever. Since my professional journey started, I would say, imagine in my, like, I remember this day when my mother and parents live in Bahrain. So they had come down, and I took my mother to my cabin and I said, like, this is where I work. She sat down and got a picture of hers. And she was like, I've never seen pride in her eyes until that day. I was like, it was always, again, it was like almost pride. Like, I know you have potential, but you've not reached it. And like on that day, when she's
almost
sitting in
pride.
that, yeah, and she's like, yes, you have done it now. And I was like, this is it. And, and so weird, like, this is my parents are finally feeling proud, at least my mother. And I feel like I have done it. And like, external validation is all over the place. Everyone's talking, saying nice things. I'm at every panel, every conference, everybody's writing about me. And inside, I'm like, I'm just empty. There is nothing going on. I'm like, there are no feelings. The feelings have like stopped. On the other hand, sometimes it's just too much feelings, and that's what anxiety kind of flits through, right? Where I am always constantly thinking of I'm always constantly overthinking, saying that, okay, do I really deserve this? Was I really,
So
am I
much
supposed to be
imposter
here?
syndrome that
Yeah,
has like
yeah,
snuck in now.
yeah. And okay, now if I've done this now at 30, what does 35 look like for me? What does 40 look like for me? If I'm here right now at this place where all of this has happened, what is my next move? Will the next thing I do also be as successful? Will it actually never be? Is this my peak? Is this everything that I could possibly do? And nothing beyond is going to, matter. So I was in a place where like every morning I would wake up. It was tough for me to get out of bed because I was like, everything was just about the fact that will today be the day where it all falls apart. There's just constant overthinking about like, and this can you imagine, like, and I'll tell you, like, the story of my first panic attack is like
please, yeah,
this is the thing for me, right? Like for every single time I've had so I got the really, really incredible opportunity of, getting to be a part of something called Goalkeepers, which is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's emerging leaders community. So they choose, emerging leaders from across the world. And, I got this incredible opportunity to be part of it. The first Goalkeepers is an event and is a community. Okay, so at this point, again, big honor. I'm on the global advisory board of Goalkeepers. At that point, I was a delegate. I was part of the community. I was invited to New York for an event where the keynote speakers, were Obama, Justin Trudeau, Malala, Trevor Noah, Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, you name it. Like some of the biggest, like the most incredible minds in the world, and they were standing like 10 meters from me. It was Lincoln Center, 300 people over there from across the world listening to these folks who are coming and saying like, you are changing the world. And I'm just like, that's what are you talking about? Sahi mein kya? So, but on that, and this is the biggest event of my life. This is the biggest thing I've ever accomplished. Okay. And I reached there. They've flown me in. They've put me up in like this fancy hotel in New York and whatnot. And I am on the day of that event, I'm supposed to get up at like 7:00, wear the first suit I have, got tailored for myself. And, I'm super excited about this whole thing. I'm going to be like in front of Obama and whatnot. And that's the first day of my life where I was just not able to get up my bed. I genuinely thought I had a heart attack because, it was a panic attack. And I did not know what panic attacks at that time were. And you have to imagine the context of this 6 years ago, where 5 or 6 years ago, where mental health conversations weren't that.
Absolutely,
big.
yeah.
And mental health conversations among men were zero. Like, So I think I'm dying, and I've, the first thought in my head is like, great. Now this is what happens when you don't, lose weight. Like that's like first thing, social conditioning.
When you don't lose weight.
Yeah. Like I thought I blocked, my arteries blocked, and everybody was always saying like, this is what will happen to you, and it's happened. And it's happened. Like I want to die in a hotel room in New York, and whatever. And in my head again, I'm thinking like, oh my God, do my parents have my net banking passwords? Because the 15 rupees in it should go to them ideally, but whatever. So I'm having all these weird thoughts, and of course I'm sweating like anything, etc., and then I finally realized, no, okay, I'm not dead, but like there's something really weird going on. Finally I'm able to get up, realize that this is just I found out that it is some sort of a panic attack, I suppose. I'd heard those terms. My students would talk. I was a teacher at Jai Hind also. I was teaching on the weekend. So my students would talk a lot about it. I was like, is that what this was? And yeah, I mean, it took me all of my bodily energy, every bit of mental energy in my life to get up on that day and finally make it to that event. And the reason that I had a panic attack was because I had just a thought, what if like I'm asked, somebody like says that, puts you on a spot and says, can you talk about your work or ask me a question, in front of all of these 300 people from the, who actually are doing incredible shit. What am I doing? I've made like, 4 web series or whatever, I will fall apart. I will be a complete and utter mess. And they will see and recognize that I don't know anything. I don't know why I'm here. And I just couldn't get up. I was like, I shouldn't go only, because if I go there, they will find me out. And when they find me out, like I'm going to embarrass myself on an international stage, which is worse than embarrassing on a national stage. But I eventually did it. Eventually went there, But one of the things that I did immediately after coming back is I quit my job at YRF. Like that's like the day I decided that I'm now going to do this. The reason also was that on that event, when I saw all of these incredible people from across the world who are doing this absolutely incredible work, I mean, people who are, standing up for change and, young people. I was again 29, 30 at that time. Everyone around me was in that age range, and they were just changing the world in the different places they were. All of these leaders in Africa, in Australia, in South America, just showing up every day, making the world a better place. And and I'm just thinking, what am I doing with my life? And I just thought that if I'm ever invited to this event again, I want to then be at a place where I have actually contributed to making the world a better place. And this is not just one of those things, even at YRF, like for anybody who's seen it, and if you all have seen it, the shows that we were making and the shows I was doing were actually socially conscious entertainment,
Yeah.
So Ladies Zoom was a feminist show. We were talking about, abortions. Yeah, we're talking about abortions. We were talking about pro-choice. We're talking about unsolicited dick pics, consent, sexual harassment, all of that happening in English with 2 girls in 2015. And this is the time where there was no content led by women in, on digital. AIB, EIC, SNG, TVF, all men. and suddenly like we had this show which was just two women, having these conversations. Papu Papa was about sex education. We did something called Six Pack Band, which is a trans pop group. So I anyway wanted to do things which I felt like, where I felt like I was actually doing something to, because I feel like content also is a power and a privilege. And, I wanted to use
I like
that
that line so much.
Yeah.
Content is the power and privilege. I think we should write
She's
that
going to
down.
tattoo it in her brain now.
Yeah, and yeah, so I mean, that's really where my journey started, and where one journey ended, I think another began. And a lot of it, I actually owe so much of my life to anxiety. Had I not gotten anxiety, had I not gotten those panic attacks, I probably would have been. And there's no harm. I think Yashraj was like literally the best professional experience of my life. The entertainment industry, the corporate world, I mean, if you are good at what you do, you can get good work done as well. But I just wanted more opportunities to. I had the thing that like therapy that I took after that. That's the time when I started taking therapy, and I had like 5 years of therapy. The biggest understanding that I had was that everything that I was chasing in terms of these goals and these metrics and what success should look like was all societal conditioning, and patriarchy forcing me to think this way. And I just wanted to be in a place where I'm doing things that I want to do and not the things that, I think that society wants me to do or the things that, my parents want me to do. And that's really where I think that was my bit of, I suppose, adulting that happened. And I thank anxiety for it in some way.
That's beautiful, Nikhil.
You think that being in therapy has also given you this kind of hindsight as 2020 or the rose tinted glasses to look back and say that, oh, all of this was part of my growth journey, and it was that like fulcrum to pivot to this new phase of life, which is a little bit more stable. And like you're saying, it's more conscious now because of the work you're doing. But you think a lot of that is because of therapy and the tools it gave you?
Therapy has changed my life for the better. Therapy is the best thing on planet Earth. I feel like every person should ideally go for it. And I feel like immaterial, I mean, I feel like you go for regular doctor checkups, when you have, even if you don't have physical ailments, you go for a full body checkup. Why don't you go for a, mind checkup also, there is, and that should be part of your full, full body checkup.
That's what I feel. I feel like your normal doctor, your cardiovascular doctor, your any doctor should tell you, and have you gone to the therapist?
Yeah, and like even if there's absolutely no harm. And of course, I feel like as Indians, and we to definitely need therapy, like more than I suppose any other country that in the world, with all of the societal things that are just forced into us, all the conditioning, all the patriarchy, so we have a lot to unlearn, and therapy has just helped me unlearn so much about the way I used to think. The funniest thing, and I'll tell you just one thing on this. My biggest learning from therapy, and this is the biggest shock to me, which is genuine shock. So I always used to think of myself as this sensitive, like emotional man, and I was like, or a person, forget man. I was just always like a really sensitive, emotional person, and I used to pride myself to write these Facebook long posts, and all my shows were had these. I was like, look at my long posts.
You were the opposite of a toxic male, basically.
I don't know about, I didn't even know those words at that time, but
exactly.
But this is the way that I used to always be. Okay. And my therapist, there's one conversation I had with her, which is where she told me, now I finally figured out what your problem is. And I was like, okay, thank God, like it's been like, I spent so much money. She's finally figured it out. It's been 3 months. And and then she tells me, she breaks it down and she says, so I think that you're not emotional. And I was so angry on hearing that. I took offense. I was like, I'm not emotional. I mean, have you read my Facebook long post? You know that I have how many love letters are written to my wife? Do you know how much I cry like in movies and randomly, and not even like emotional movies. I cry in like regular movies. And I was it was a betrayal. I was like, 3 months I've been with you, and now this is your diagnosis. Cancel, dosti, cancel. So I was in that zone. And then she's like, I knew this is going to be a response. And so I'm going to ask you a question, and she asked me this question, changed the course of my life, I suppose. Where she's like, Nikhil, tell me, like, when my wife Daisy, she says, when she comes home and she's had a hard day of work, like, what does she do? I'm like, well, she comes and she just speaks about it. She's like really angry and like whatever. She bitches about it, whatever it is. And then, we chill, like, we have dinner and then like watch something and things. She's like, okay, great, and when you have a hard day at work and a terrible day at work and you come back home, what do you do about it? I'm like, listen, I'm not that kind of a person. I like to keep my work life and my home life separate. So I don't bring any of that to home. I want to have a regular home life, etc. And she just looks at me and says, "You and every other man in India." And
Yeah,
I'm like,
my dad also.
and I was like, wait, what? And in that moment, she reduced me from a human being to a man, to my gender, which I had never ever in my life thought that actually I never identify. If anything, I'd identify as an ex-engineer, I identify as a creative person, I identify as like a sensitive, emotional, like whatever person, but like a man. I was like, I'm a man, which is, I don't know, for
This
most
is
men
like
that
the
would be
man.
a,
I love it.
I mean,
It's my favorite part.
Watching you deconstruct this is so cool because I swear I know at least 7 in my own life who I'm like, I want you to know.
No, so for me, it was like, for most men, I think it's a great thing to hear that, you are like any other man. And for me, it was like an insult. I was like, really? I thought I was better. Like, and I was like, shit, I'm also exactly that. And she just broke it and she's like, this is what all men do. You're conditioned to keep everything inside of you. You're conditioned to carry all the burdens of the world on your head and your shoulders, whatever, not express, not put out. Even with your closest folks, you just think that, okay, there should be this separation or whatever the hell it is, because men should not be communicating, men should not be putting their burdens on others, blah, blah, blah. And so that's what you're doing. So you have emotions, Nikhil, but you're not emotional. And I was like, she destroyed me that line. She got up that day, chose violence. And I was like,
another one of Ayushi's favorite concepts. Nikhil, I feel like Ayushi is now obsessed with you and she wants to be your best friend after this episode.
Because I have all these exact feelings of like, oh God, no, but continue this. So like therapy was your revelation that somebody...
Yeah, it changed my life. It did. From that point onwards, like first of all, I think it took me just 2 weeks to 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I think after that, I was just in a blur. I was like, I'm a man. Like this is, I just thought as a human being, like, I'm not a human being, I'm a man. I'm specifically a man. I've all the things in my life that I always thought had nothing to do with my gender. This actually literally put me down into that gender. And then when I started reconstructing every aspect of my life, I was like, yes, I am actually exactly everything my gender is. I am a man, because every single parts which I used to think like, okay, whatever, I don't have in me, I had it in me. Whether it is the fact that why was I chasing these highs? Why was I chasing these successes? Why was I looking at these milestones? Men have these checklists that are conditioned into them. Men are born and told like, you have to get a house by a certain age, you have to get a car by a certain age, you have to marry by a certain age. I married by a certain age. I married, I wanted to have that 30 wala was a checklist. By 30, I wanted to have a certain money in my bank account, etc., whatever, certain designation. These were the things that I was after. And then when I started deconstructing, I just realized that why do I have to be doing this checklist? Why can't I live the life in a way that I authentically want? Why can't I chase the things what am I so afraid of? And it wasn't fear. It was just, it was just societal conditioning. It was patriarchy, and I found out, after that, I've obviously read a lot about all of these concepts. In fact, I'm actually now writing a book on this called Be a Man Yaar, which is supposed to have come out this year, but now will hopefully come out next year. And so one of the things that I found out in research, and this lovely line that I came across, that, we know that patriarchy benefits men, but what we need to also realize is that it oppresses everybody. So, and I feel like that's the thing that I never ever thought that patriarchy would oppress men. Like, as the woke person, which I, without knowing, again, what woke was at that point of it, I always kind of progressive, but I always thought that patriarchy is, the thing that women suffer from. But then I realized that even men go through it. Why
they
are men
so oppressed?
Why are men, and you look at all our parents, right? You look at all the men in our older generations, alcoholics, domestic violence, just people who are anger issues, all of these are coming from the fact that they've never in a day expressed. They don't know how to put their words out feelings out as words. And, everything that stays inside of that ultimately then comes out in these really angry ways. All the toxicity that you see is because men are just never asked to, or never, they can't even recognize among themselves that it's okay to express. So therapy helped me express, and that's just changed my life. So now while I still continue writing those long posts, I also am vulnerable in ways which I feel like men typically aren't. I try very hard to make sure that I speak about my mental health issues, that I speak about, my tough days, I speak about my failures, because I feel like that's what being emotional really means, being able to put out a certain part of your life into the world that other men are very afraid to do. I don't want to be seen as a man. That's my entire thing. Or if at all, I want to be seen as a human being. I feel like that's the most important thing that I think any of us should kind of want to be, right? Like decent human being.
I just want to take a second to appreciate everything that you've said so far, because Tash is crying already. And that happens, so don't worry, don't be stressed out by it. Don't be stressed. It's normal. But thank you so much for just having this segment of you admitting that you had a problem, how you found the problem, how you're dealing with it, and the fact that you admit that this is a bigger problem than just yourself. This is something that we all need to take a collective look at. But let's take a short break on this note, because when we come back, I have now 10,000 more questions than I had before. So you're screwed. So stay. We'll be right back, everyone.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, Ashton talks to Garima Pandey. She is the co-founder of Wandering Jane. They discuss solo travel and how it's perceived. Does the story of a fake lawyer on the run sound interesting to you? Then definitely tune into Misconduct. Raghavi and Nisha discuss the story of Ceci Xavier. On KBCD, Farad and Sunitru discuss how sometimes people don't feel inclined towards sex, some possible causes, and how it's okay to feel so occasionally. On Press Decode, Sarah and Prafula are joined by author and journalist Sandeep Roy. They discuss the no stags policy that many bars and restaurants follow across the country. Do check out Hanswani, the story Tirthatan talks to us about the aspiration and challenges of widowed women. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, do remember, go check out our website, ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, to get a list of all of our YouTube channels. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, HDFC Mutual Fund, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back. And we're in conversation with the amazing Nikhil Taneja. And it has been, I'll try to pick up where we left off, which is from like this little like nugget of therapy. We have this standing joke on the show that Tash goes to therapy and then she comes and she tells me everything. And that's why I say, what did we learn? That's kind of, I'm just giving you background to that joke, is that I call it secondhand therapy, because I have this, I had the other problem which you had, which was I tried for very long to not be the emotional woman that people expect ladies and women to be. Mm-hmm. And that anything that would take it towards the feminineness, to take it towards emotion, to take it towards romance, to take it towards your vulnerability, yes. Work, even in the space that I work in, everything that somehow dictated femininity to me, I would go the opposite, because I was like, I reject that, because that is weakness. That is not how you get ahead in life, because look at what society has done to women and look at what it's done to men. So I have pursued a masculine approach in a lot of the ways that I have worked. And then as I got older, I realized somewhere along the line, biology kicked in, and I couldn't deny that there were parts of me that were quintessentially womanly or feminine or from the gender. And I'm maybe using the wrong words here, and I don't want to alienate anybody who doesn't conform to, a gender, to a binary system, sorry. But I had the opposite, where I now at 30 have realized that, I am just a woman. Like, I have had another humbling experience, which is that as the years have gone by, I've realized that I want kids, I want to be married, and I want to have a house, and I want to, these things which I grew up, and anyone who has been my friend for 10 plus years, 12 plus years, and most of my friends have been my friends that long, they all know that she never wanted kids. She didn't want to be married. She wanted to do everything else. And for the longest time, I was like, yeah, you'll be the cool aunt. You'll be the fun aunt who comes in and like plays with the kids and eats. Now, I think when they see me, if I've picked up a child or something, I swear, I think the first time I sent them a picture of my nieces and nephews with my reaction, or sending them pictures of when I met my nieces and nephews and I was sending them pictures of that, their reaction was, are you okay? Like, what? Are you fine? Like, this is a child. And I found myself in that not opposite situation of you, but I found myself in a situation where I felt like I had been fighting so much of maybe who I just was, because society had conditioned me to believe that it was not a good thing to be, or not a good thing to be. It wasn't the right way to get to that X point at 30 or 35, or be like, how will I get there if I get married at this age? If I'm having kids, how will I do this? You know?
Yeah.
And because I have a younger brother who didn't decide to work with our family business, I felt like, no, I have to be that son. I won't let my father or my uncle feel like there isn't a man in the family to join and be the next generation. And it's a different thing that I found like passion and joy in that. And like, I'm happy, but it was like a lot of the reason why I also did was like, well, no, someone has to step up. And just because it's not my brother, it'll be me. And so, you know, I'm not trying to take away your thing here. I'm saying that it's weird, but we have it as well. On the other side, there's a lot of imposter syndrome of not even knowing whether you're doing womanhood right. Yeah. You know, and I for the longest time, I just thought I was trying to adult. I really just thought I was trying to adult and be a good adult and be a good human and be a good Indian and be a good citizen, a global citizen, and do the right thing by everyone around you. But it's like, I just wasn't doing right by my core self only.
Yeah.
And that is so much to deconstruct at this age. And that's why sometimes I think we're a little bit more f***ed up than the younger ones, because we keep having to navigate between what we feel like and what we don't feel like, and what that we're not steady. We're just a bit wobbly. That's why the phrase wobble came from Natasha and I being like, means I'm not falling one side or the other,
shaky,
but I'm not straight either. Like I'm, you know, that Russian doll that teeters like from side to side. And inside that Russian doll, there's one more doll. Then you open, there's one more doll. There's one more doll. It's like an onion of people inside you. But that feeling is so, and I just wanted to share that with you to be like, I hear you. I do. And there must be thousands of people out there who feel that way, because, hey man, on the other side here, as a woman, also struggling and feel so bad some days to feel like I'm nothing but a woman. Like,
and as he said, I think it's very rightly the patriarchy's fault. And I don't think we acknowledge that within ourselves enough also. We know it as an intellectual concept, and we've all experienced it in our early lives, and we continue to even today. But even for us, Ayushi, you and I, as woke, as feminist, as progressive as we are, we still don't call it out enough within our own lives.
We don't. And I think a huge part of that is also because we were lucky enough to be raised and be around men who were by and large not openly patriarchal.
That's the problem.
No, and that's true, right? Because we have grown up in privileged circles. We've gone to co-ed schools. We have boyfriends. I mean, there are friends of us who are guys, and we...
Nobody's openly patriarchal. Exactly.
Nobody is openly sexist to you. No one's openly oppressing you. Your father is not doing that. But it's like... Yeah. If you start to deconstruct
in
everything,
1,000 small ways it's happening every day.
The castle in the sky just collapses.
I feel like these gender constructs are, you know, so deeply conditioned into us. You know, we don't even recognize the fact that almost in the way we dress, the way we speak, the people we hang out with, you know, the kind of, I mean, all of these, when you start deconstructing, every decision you have made in your life is actually not a decision. You know, it's just... You know, it wasn't free will. You know, you think it is free will, but it was all meant to happen. It was the circumstance you're born in, the kind of world you're born in, the kind of the age that you're born in. The fact that you were, I mean, there was a choice made about how to dress you when you were growing up. There was a choice made about the kind of first folks that you were made to hang out with. You know, saying, okay, this is a girl, so she's going to hang out with other girls. The boy is going to hang out with other boys. This boy is going to get these male toys. You know, what a male idea of toys is supposed to be. You know, will wear, you know, not pink. Girls will wear pink. They will be given dolls. All of these things are they're so constructed within us that, you know, we don't even recognize that they are, you know, a matter of construct, you know, and it's so much of adult life goes in just trying to unlearn this and trying to figure out then that if I am not my gender, who am I? If I have to remove every aspect of my gender outside, then what, you know, can I be, and who can I authentically
try to be in that sense, and I have been trying to chip away on that ever since that conversation. It's taking me a long time. Even today, there are like, every time I have to think of something, I always kind of start seeing, I try to have that now filter or just that idea in front of am I doing this because, this is my construct, or am I doing this because I want to really do this? Am I thinking like this because this is conditioned into me and this is patriarchy? I want to do this. How much do you have to chip away to find out who you are essentially as a person? And you will, especially when you're growing up, it's very tough to have that and individuality also, because ultimately you are a function of everything around you. But you have to, the big thing is, what do you choose out of that and say, this is acceptable to me irrespective of gender. This is like, I want to have kids like desperately. Okay, I'm dying to have babies, right? And that's just, I don't want to have it because it is a patriarchal thing. I don't want to have it because being a father is like, I had a checklist. I want to have it because I genuinely want to have kids, and that I know for a fact is probably like maybe the opposite of what my gender typically wants. Like, liability. I'm framing my life in a way that when I do have children, I'm able to not spend that kind of time at work. I would want ideally to spend time with them when fortunately work from home has now been normalized, but I would want to do that when my children are born. I would like to take a sabbatical and spend time. I would like to take paternity, and I'm obviously trying to put those values in my company also at this point of time. But these are the things. I'm not doing this because there's some progressive idea of what men should be, but this is just genuinely who I am, and I think like we need to find those things about ourselves, which is so, and I suppose a lot of that is then adulthood, right? In many ways, like, who are we if we are not everything that we were asked to be? Who are we if we are not everything that...
Wait, I have to write this down also. Who are we if we are not? Say again.
Everything we've been asked to be. Absolutely. It's similar to what you shared, Ayushi, yesterday.
That's what I just opened it. I opened it because I want to read that out. We've been
Who are we?
To...
Now we are all just like, teacher ne kya bola? Notes likho.
No, you don't understand. This is how I learn. I have to write down certain things and read it later when I'm in a dark space for me to actually absorb the value of the lesson here. Because there is a lesson here. I see it. I just don't need it right now because I'm like, it's okay. It's morning. I have a whole day of like 7 interviews in front of me today, so I don't care. But I'm like, when I'm in that space where I'm like, I am woman, I am this, I am that, I'm going to hear that thing. But I did want to read something out, which I thought that I think, Nikhil, you like it as well. I sent it to the girls' chat, to help us deconstruct. It said, it's this quote by Emily McDowell, and she says, finding yourself is not really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket. You are also not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself, an unlearning, an excavation, a remembering of who you were before the world got its hands on you.
That's beautiful.
And I really like that.
I think I have that saved in my saved items on Instagram. I think
that only I found it there on Instagram.
Yeah. It is, and you think about it, like, when children are born, and the first few years are like really where they are trying, where you see that there are certain things that they are naturally getting inclined towards, whether it's music, someone likes to dance, someone likes to go towards the, beats and just start playing these random things, etc., etc. If you recognize at that point of time that this is what their liking is, or this is what their, why don't you, happily push someone towards the direction they want, versus saying, nahi, dance to chalo hobby hai, music to hobby hai, art to hobby hai, agar ye kar rahe ye to galat hai, this is not what it is, abhi khelne do bachchon ko, ye bacche hain, and then start putting things into them, saying, now this is what you have to do. On the other hand, what we need to perhaps do is, when our kids are born, expose them to various different things and then let them choose, like, who are you? What are you? There was this, like, I feel like even when it comes to, like sexuality, right? Like, the fact that so much of our I remember, now again, I'm not an expert on the topic, but, when I was when I was a kid, my parents would joke and say, when I was 2 or 3, like, look, that girl is looking at you. She likes you, or whatever it is, or like it's a joke, right?
It happens so common. Yeah, everyone does this.
Now, is sexuality? I mean, like, why has it taken so much time for people of our generation to come out? Because sexuality is also so ingrained when you're born and kind of looped in, and parents are the first people saying that, okay, maybe what if like all of us are just attracted to other human beings, but like we are from a very early age conditioned so hard to find a certain kind of a sexual identity as quote unquote normal, that you are then never able to unpack that, and even so I mean, there's so many things that when you try to dive
there
deeper,
are bags and bags and bags in the mental loft that are not unpacked only. And I think if we start to unpack it, sometimes you realize that this is so overwhelming that you stop and you put it away and you move on with life. And then next thing you know, 10 years have passed and you have not addressed any of your real traumas. And what's happened is you've been living on cruise control, where it's just like you picked one speed, you picked this lane, and let's just keep going. And at some point that works for some people, because a lot of people have just driven themselves to success on this path. But for a lot of others,
quote,
it takes...
unquote.
But for a lot of us, it takes deconstructing.
No, but honestly, like I look at people who are successful, and I'm gonna like okay. So I got the opportunity, and I'm not named, but I got the opportunity of getting to be randomly at a party in the house of one of the richest people in the world. I'm not gonna name.
But, neighbor.
Okay, so I'm not gonna name, but perhaps, and the thing that just I could not believe was that this person who's one of the wealthiest people in the world was constantly just having these really like urgent chats, sweating, like, telling people what is to be done, this and that. And I'm like, if you have that kind of money in your life, and that kind of wealth in your life, you're still not able to be calm, you're still not able to be composed about, you're still not like at peace with yourselves, what is the point of all of this success and money? Kitna paisa loge before you say that it's enough and now I can live a calm life? You're always performing, you're always, and you think that again, that this is actually, okay, success begets success, and this hustle culture is the coolest thing in the world, so of course people like it, but that is also conditioned, no? It's not.
Yes.
Are you really saying that everybody likes at all points of time to burn themselves out and then come back on and say, nahi yaar, yehi mujhe pasand hai, yehi acha lagta hai. These are all, and and it's so unfortunate that because there's just so little conversation about this, most people don't even question these things. These are just agreeable things.
Yeah.
That कि यार इतने पैसे आएंगे तो लाइफ अच्छी होगी. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. If you have less money but you have a good way of, I mean, you're at peace with yourself, you have good love in your life, you're enjoying what you do, it's really immaterial. You can live an entire life without having to worry about these things. There are people that I mean, in so many different parts of India, you go outside, and I feel so much of this is also such an urban issue. You go outside in areas. I've literally traveled in, now with Yuvaa, we went to like this road show where we went across like hundreds and hundreds of different, we went to about 110 campuses, met some 10,000 kids, spoke to all of them, and there are kids who have obviously who are conditioned to feel like their life is only successful if they get to Bombay or whatever it is, or if they get to Delhi or if they get to Kolkata. And then I've met these kids who are like, I'm in Indore, I've started something of my own over here. I want to, because I love doing this, and am I doing right? And I'm like, you are exactly, you found what you're doing. You're not worried about somebody else's idea of success. You're creating your own thing. And these are the people who are going to, they're not only going to be actually be successful in that sense of that success for them actually doesn't look like just money or a good designation or a good, company that they have, but the fact that they're enjoying what they're doing and they're doing it on their terms versus having to do it because they need to do it or they must do it or because their gender tells them to or because their parents tell them to or because, so. And I feel like I'm also failing at that, right? I also fail at the fact like I'm still, I mean, I have a company and ultimately so much of my time just goes back making sure that this company needs to grow,
Because you also, then the reality of life also seeps in, right? Like while you have these wonderful goals and ideals, there is also a reality that this is a business. There is a bottom line, there are employees, and to be a good boss, to be able to provide all the things that you want to provide for your employees in this new setting of creating an equitable workplace, you have to work really hard to make sure that the money is there, or the feasibility is there, the infrastructure is there for these things. But I did want to ask you a question, this, leading to this thing of the fact that you went on this roadshow, you saw hundreds of thousands of young Indian kids. And I'm going to use Indian because this is a question that is really contextual to our country. We didn't grow up thinking, because I think Tash and I grew up in very privileged circles. So I'll speak just as a representative of the two of us. A lot of times our socially consciousness has come because she and I maybe cared a little bit more, or we read a little bit more, or we were a little bit more informed because, maybe our parents told us to read the paper, do something like that, or then you started feeling this thing of like, no, if you are an educated person, you should be socially responsible and conscious. And then hers came from a place of, because she's a public person and she has a platform, she has to be doubly conscious and responsible about what she says, about what is the messaging that she's putting out there. It's not always easy for her. It's a miserable, sometimes that line to walk between what's right and wrong, but you try. For me, it was because I was always interested in policy and politics. I'm like very gung-ho about the fact that, no, this is right, this is wrong, and this is how the country should move forward. Do you think that the fact that we have become, I think the youth of India is a little bit more socially and politically more conscious than our parents were at our age? Let me put it that way, at our age. Now they have a different level, but is that are you hopeful? I want to end on a hopeful note only, and so you better give me a hopeful answer. But I am hopeful when I see the way people are engaged today, because I know that my peers, when we were that age, weren't this. They didn't care. We didn't care enough.
Yeah.
And now you see kids caring, and it's like, do you think we're going to see the benefits of this, or hear me out? Is this going to go the opposite way, where every single thing offends us? Every single thing requires a visceral, angry reaction. Everything requires commentary on social media. And then we get stuck in that trap. Because I think sometimes that happens also, is that people get stuck in the thing of, oh, I said something on social media and that is the only thing that matters. And not actually practicing any of that in your real life. Because you stand up for a community on real life, but then you make 1,001 jokes personally.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand that from an outside and urban perspective. Is that, do you see an actual change in people?
It's a vast question.
But I wanted to give you context as to why I had the question.
Absolutely. I mean, let me start by saying that, the internet is not the world.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Thank you.
I think a lot of us, especially in urban centers, we spend a lot of our time on the internet and hang out with people who spend a lot of the time on the internet, and we kind of start thinking that this is the world. It's not.
It's not.
It's a lot of the things that happen on the internet do shape the world, and a lot of things that happen in the world shape the internet. But by and large in our country, even this idea of what is socially conscious, right? I think this is just this socially conscious thought processes are such a urban privileged idea, that we have in this privileged conversations, we are talking about, things like between us, of course, we are speaking right now, of course, about gender, etc., etc. But, we are still those people who have the awareness, knowledge, privilege, education, background, circumstance to be able to get to a place where we're having a nuanced conversation about the levels of gender and patriarchy and have gone to therapy.
It's a spectrum.
Correct. It's perspective, and it's not like we have not gone through it. Of course we have, but when you go and meet other young people on the other, they are facing all of this in real ways. They are facing it in ways where they're getting married off at 21, where they have to there are, young people who are, the trigger warning, but, one of the things that always which shocked me, in one of the, is how casually, young people that I'd met, and I've met 10,000 people on the road, right? Over 2 years. how casually they would just say about it, and this happened, and I tried to kill myself, and this happened. I'm like, wait, what? And the number of people who have so casually spoken about having tried to, die by suicide. It's not even like, that's not even the main point of the story they would be telling. They'd be telling a story about the fact that I am, I'm lonely, or a story about I have examination pressure, or the fact that, I'm, everyone says I'm dark. And then somewhere in the story would be just this like one nugget about the fact, oh, I also tried to do this. And you're just like, wait, like, how did they just go by saying this, right? Like, people on ground are getting affected by these things in person, of course, which is why this conversation is also important. But I feel like, we in urban centers just we get so angry about like the perfect conversation, the perfect way of having this conversation, the perfect words to use for this conversation. And I'm not saying that that's not right. That is right. Let's do that. But I feel like what we're constantly end up doing is we just end up shutting people out versus bringing
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Our way in on the internet and our way in like a lot of our privileged circles is just kind of saying that, Acha, if somebody makes a mistake and they don't know what they're saying,
Cancel.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I don't want to give an opinion on cancel culture, because I do feel like, it's such a large loaded word, and there is consequences that people should go through when they do screw up. But like, again, like, you can't compare somebody saying something dumb in one sentence to someone having like, oppressed people and call all of that is cancel culture, right?
Absolutely.
Like, all of that cannot come under the same umbrella, and what we typically, what I see, and which, really, like, I feel like it's very sad, like, especially when young people make mistakes, right? I mean, everybody when we are young, we are dumb. Like, that's just how it is, right? Of course, this is a far younger generation, but like, it's honest. I mean, I was dumber yesterday than I'm today, and I'll continue. That's just continuing to be, as I have more life experiences, I will get smarter, hopefully. Of course, I see like in this generation, because of misinformation, people are actually getting stupider when they're growing older, which is just sad. But typically that's the way it happens now. But I feel like any young person who says something really stupid sometimes online, the first reaction of most people is, I mean, now we don't want to talk to this person because you're not as smart as I am. You're not as woke as I am. You're not as well educated as I am. So you're out, and you shut this person out. And by what happens then is, now this person never has the chance to learn. This person never has the chance to kind of then even understand कि मैंने गलत क्या किया था, what was wrong, and never have the chance to grow or be part of your tribe, which is a tribe that actually knows everything. But if you're constantly going to shut people out who are not as aware or as educated as you, then this is not actually being liberal, or it's not really actually being empathetic, right? If we are calling us a progressive, that's not. I feel like we are just shutting people out throughout, and our numbers will then continue decreasing, because
this is a huge thing.
High five each other and say, I know, but like nobody else knows. Then like the world is going to continue then getting worse, and five of you are just sitting in one room and saying, yes, we know everything, but usse hoga change नहीं होने वाला. So I feel like the answer to everything is empathy, and I feel like you folks, outside of cities, I see have a lot more than I think a lot of young folks in the city.
That's true.
And I feel like, I think that's what we really need. We need to be kinder to each other. We need to allow people to make mistakes. We need to, and I'm not saying like do the emotional labor of like making sure people are, getting better or being more progressive, but at least point them out into better directions. At least don't like, rebuke people for just not knowing things. Like if somebody today, when I was 2021, I was also homophobic. That is just conditioned into like growing up. It was conditioned into me, straight, gay, all of those things, It's only after I have grown up, and I would say so much of my thinking, actually, so much of my learning came from young people. I was teaching at Jai Hind college. I had students who were gay. And then after spending time with everybody, I just realized that, okay, I mean, I had to expand my worldview because they were just wonderful. Every student I've had, has just been a wonderful, wonderful human being. And just interacting with them, getting to listen to them, getting to learn from them changed my life. It changed my perspective of the world. It made me more empathetic, made me a better person, and just by able to expand my mind, I was able to live a better life because I was not constantly, egged by negativity or toxicity. I was not constantly always thinking this person is not right or this person is wrong or this person is, uncool or whatever it is. And I feel like that's the world we need to now move towards. We need to find ways of including people,
Absolutely.
finding ways of, driving everybody away from each other. And young people on ground, when I say on ground, sorry, the young people when I've met in all of these different places that we've gone to, and I've gone to 35 cities. I've gone to tier 2, tier 3. I've met so many of these young people. They are bright-eyed. They have aspiration. They have a way that they want to change the world. They are going to change the world. And a lot of it is them just naturally understanding that the world needs to be better. Because their lives need to be better. Because their lives are not as good as a lot of the other lives, but they're not sitting online and complaining and saying, yeah. And I'm again not saying that not talking about things on the internet is not good. That's important. But what is also important is actually doing the work, being on ground and doing the work. And these kids are doing the work. So I see a lot of hope. I've literally started a company called Yuvaa.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to know, how your perception of the youth would be so much more inspirational and hopeful because you've seen it, you're exposed to them,
and they are willing to put in the work.
Yeah,
every conversation I have had, and I have met some people who you would call problematic in multiple ways, and I can promise you, at the end of every one of those conversations, that person has. There was this young person I know who, we did these open mics where we asked young people to come and tell their stories, okay? And there was this one boy who we had met in a college who would say a lot of these problematic things. I said, you come to the open mic, spend some time with us, wanted to understand, had a very empathetic chat. He said some really sexist, stupid things. I said, you come, and I realized he's 19. What is he doesn't know better. Let me call him and make him part of our tribe and see what it means to kind of have, kind of be more inclusive and just be more empathetic to each other. He came to that open mic. In that open mic, there was a young bisexual boy who told his story. At the end of the story, this boy was crying and he went to and hugged this guy and literally said these words that, I have been, I don't understand straight or gay. I have actually discriminated and bullied people like you. But if it's okay with you, can I have a chai with you at some point in time? I want to learn about your life. And I was just like, this is, young people today. You give them an opportunity and they will. That boy today is doing sociology. He was an engineer. There's a whole story outside of that also, which I'm not getting into. But there's so many beautiful, brilliant people that I've seen, and I've followed their stories through the roadshow to now. I've followed a lot of them back. I see them change their lives, how they have grown and changed in the ways that they have. But all of it started with just a conversation, just listening, just empathy, just having getting together and having a safe space where they're allowed to make mistakes. We need to give people the opportunity to make
mistakes
and to learn and grow from there.
And then learn and grow. If we did not make mistakes, you think when we were growing
all
up,
of us, that's what
everybody said. If anytime I did something, stupid, I was put on a pedestal and said this is stupid, this person is stupid. How would I ever have become better? And I've done that really stupid thing. There are parts of me on the internet. If people find out, I'm 100%. People are going to go. I know exactly. There's this one thing that I've written many years ago. It's the stupidest, dumbest thing that I've written. I said some really stupid, dumb things.
And I hope it's not on Twitter for everyone to see, and it's on your Facebook.
It's not on Twitter. It's not even on.
Thank God. Chalo, bas. Apne paas rakho. You have evolved now.
It's the allowance for that. It's you have to allow for people to accept that they can change. And I think people can change. People are allowed to contain multitudes. You are a human being. You are more than just if you think that what you thought at 18 is fundamentally who you are, that's so limiting. You're not. Even at 35, 38, I see my parents still learning because I'm forcing them to learn, being listen, there are gay people in my life and I love them and you love them as people. You loved them before you knew about their sexuality. So learn to figure out how. Yeah. And that was a conversation 5 years ago. And now for them, their idea of what homosexuality is so radically different and their openness towards it is so radically different. And it's if I had not pushed you, but if you were not given yourself the chance to learn and unlearn and relearn, how would you have had the joy of having these people in your life? Because these people are now in your life and you love them and you care about them. So is it not worth changing your mind to allow goodness and joy into your life? Is that not worth it? And that's just not about these things, but it's about anything, like any opinion that you held when you were in your teens, when you were in your early 20s. If I was to be held accountable for those things, that's not fair. Because I wouldn't have been able to be the person I am today. I don't think any of us would have been able to. But
and I think essentially it comes down, I feel, to us, all of us recognizing that all of us are struggling. Okay, there's nobody who has it together, honestly. Every one of us is struggling in some way or the other. And I think if we just have that empathy and recognition that, like all of us are at the end of the day human beings, right? And like we are being humans, like as we go along, nobody really knows exactly what it is to be that perfect human, I suppose. I just feel like let's allow people to find who they are as we go along.
Yeah.
Let's recognize the fact that some of us are going to screw up to get there. Some of us are hopefully going to listen to podcasts like this, and perhaps learn, etc. But it's also about choice. Like so much, we have to choose the things that are going to help us learn and grow, and we have to reject those things that are going to turn us into, I would say, just more. Like I use this very often, but I'll also just say this in this context. I feel like, our anger should be focused on institutions, not on individuals. I feel like we just spend so much of our time being angry with each other, where we don't work on systemic change. We just say that this person is wrong, this person is bad, this person does no shit, this person needs to do better.
Yeah.
But like, what are the forces that are creating these people? Let's work on those changes. Let's work on making our education system better. Let's make sure that within our household, like Ayushi, you were talking to your parents, let's make sure that conversations on our family WhatsApp groups are better. Let's make sure that we use every one of our social medias to write, empowering things, making the world a better place. Let's use our platforms to put out good stuff into the world.
Yeah.
Why are we constantly just focusing on why somebody is wrong versus talking about all the ways in which we can be better? So
Nikhil, you have been my favorite guest of recent times, even though we've spoken to some amazing people. But I think my heart and soul needed to hear the things you've said today, because it struck a chord in so many ways. And normally we end the episode with asking you for the top tips, but I think everything you said,
this whole episode has been a top tip. I don't want to reduce anything that you've said. I want every large story to be like the thing. Like listen to the whole episode to understand why this is a top tip.
There are so many takeaways. Yeah.
But thank you for showing us that adulthood and adulting is a work in progress. That you're allowed to be a work in progress. That you're allowed to make mistakes and grow from them. And in every possible situation, if there is an option to choose empathy and kindness, choose that.
One point on that, I would say the one last thing that I would say that I just realized I haven't said, I would say that let's have empathy for ourselves as well.
Yes.
I feel like we
starts here.
Missed that bit of it, and therapy really taught me to do that. And I feel like if we can also start forgiving ourselves for being stupid sometimes, that's a nice place to start. Let's do better ourselves also, and then demand better from others.
Yeah, our therapist tells us the same.
Nikhil, big hugs.
Big hugs to you. And I hope that we can, I would really love to take this conversation offline with you. And
you are coming back also whenever you are not this is not a one-time guest appearance for you. Nah, babe, you are returning to Agla
You've made
Station
it to
Adulthood.
our elite list of guests that we want to talk to again.
Yes.
But thank you. Thank you for your morning. This was the privilege of your time. We appreciate that so much.
And for social media, where can our listeners find you? Quick plug-in.
Taneja मैं हूँ.
Yeah, I know.
इतना अंदाज अपना but Taneja मैं हूँ market.
So that's Taneja मैं हूँ on Instagram and Twitter.
And we are Yuvaa if you'd like to watch. I think a lot of the that I had today, try to channelize that into content. So Yuvaa, please do check that out.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for listening and the privilege of your time, of course. You know where to find more podcasts like this one. And Thank you for being part of this amazing season 2 journey, which is closing to 100 soon. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, lovely people. Have a wonderful day.
Do you like true crime stories?
Do you like to learn about the people behind some horrible, awful crimes?
More specifically, women that may have committed these crimes.
Actually, Indian criminals that are women?
Then we'd like to welcome you to our podcast, Misconduct. My name is Raghavi.
And I am Nisha.
We cover themes like murder, dacoity, drug trafficking, financial fraud, kidnapping, and many more.
You can catch us every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcast.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.